You're the infamous Marie McDonnell, right?
Infamous, that's probably right.
We're both living in infamy in this society, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. As I was making a few notes on the flight.
Good.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the mass public is frustrated, but they have no clue as to what is really going on. And I think the more that we do events like this, we're able to expose it and get it out there. We have a vehicle now, you know, and a continuing vehicle.
Yeah. Well, I think the report is very momentous. And that's the way I intended it to be. I intended it to be a vehicle for everyone to use, the courts,
Right,
the
reference.
attorneys.
Right.
It's a resource, it's a reference, and it's current and very well documented. And do you notice no one has challenged me on one fact?
Assistant Attorney General Lanny Breuer thought about that, and why no prosecutions have been directed at Wall Street. We also wanted to know why Sarbanes-Oxley has not been used against big banks like Citigroup.
You talk about Sarbanes-Oxley. We have to know that you intended, had the specific intent to make a false statement.
They knew there was a problem. Not only had they been told that there was a problem by one of their chief underwriters, that the loans that they were buying were not what they claimed, and that the federal government, that the controller of the currency, didn't think their internal controls were adequate either.
I moved to Seattle not quite 3 years ago because of its spirit. And my family has enjoyed that spirit as early as 1955, and then again throughout the 60s, 70s, and again in the new millennium. Now, I know that Seattle can do better than Washington on many of these issues. And it must do better, and it will do better. And we're here to help.
So we examined it. These were the various things that MERS claimed to be: appointer, assigner, beneficiary, current beneficiary, grantee, lender, mortgagee, subordinate lien holder, across these documents.
Audit for John O'Brien, Registrar of the Essex Southern District Registry of Deeds in Salem, Massachusetts. I was so upset at the early results of analyzing the assignments of mortgage that I called John and I said, John, I just want you to know your registry is a crime scene.
That's right.
And that really rang through to his soul, and that became his moniker
He repeated
after this. However, I'm here in Seattle, and I have to tell you, after auditing the King County land records relating to the properties here in Seattle, I declare Seattle a war zone. I'm going through the streets, looking at the homeless population, sleeping on the sidewalks, encamped under your highway systems, and I'm shocked. This is a war zone. And I just dare you to take pictures of war zones and some of these encampments and just see how close that visual comes.
Well, they're offering Band-Aids right now.
Yeah.
You know, they're building tent cities and they're doing that, but they're not getting at the core. And the mass media out here is not getting at the core. So we need to thank these guys for bringing us in, and we'll continue on with the answer. Boom, 1590.
Okay.
That's a wrap.
Yeah. So, any break in the chain causes a fatal process failure. Okay. So moving on then, this was the objective that was spelled out exactly this way in the request for quote from the city auditor's office. I was confounded because for the most part, there are no property addresses on the assignments of deeds of trust, nor are there any parcel numbers that would identify the property that would allow me to go then into the assessor's office and see if in fact the parcel ID code related to one in the Seattle city limits. I knew how I wanted to go about doing the study, but I found it impossible to use the methodology that was established by the city auditor's office.
Next, Take a look at this rampant illegality that obscures and obfuscates the fact that MERS is omnipresent in the Recorder of Deeds office here, even though it lacks the legal authority to transfer a ham sandwich, much less the title to your home. Now, Marie McDonnell and I have a colleague by the name of Lamar Gunn. Mr. Gunn had a notary decommission a few years ago when I was in contact with him and reporting on the case for the very same type of conduct you were about to witness. And Mr. Gunn, by the way, even won the election last year as Kent County Recorder of Deeds before the bankers and a corrupt government stole it from him on the 4th recount. Now again, Seattle can do better than that, it must do better than that, and it will do better than that. We're here to help.
MERS is assigning it to MERS. We don't know what that's supposed to mean. And so if you look over here, in many of these instances, the notary crosses out the perjury line and said, I certified under penalty of perjury. They cross that stuff out. So, is this a notarization? I don't know.
Our government to do the right thing so we can take back our city from the rampant corruption in the banking and mortgage industries that affects all of us. Please follow along with Mortgage Movies Journal and at our Facebook page, Seattle Mortgage Economic Reality Summit.
The Seattle City Council engaged my firm, McDonnell Property Analytics, to conduct an analysis of certain assignments of deeds of trust in accordance with Washington state law and with a very important decision that the Washington Supreme Court handed down in 2012, where they determined that mortgage electronic registration systems is not a lawful beneficiary. And the result of my investigation revealed that absolutely none of these MERS assignments, in fact, are valid. Not only are they not valid, but they violate a particular Washington statute that makes it a felony to record a false document in your public land records. And that triggers a $5,000 statutory fine.
So there's also, this is a legal, a moral, and ethical, and financial incentives for the city to do the right thing, and for the county to do the right thing.
Well, it is, because really the violations of the law that we discovered, the banks and the mortgage servicing companies and the trustees they hire to record these documents are essentially breaking the law, violating that statute. And in our small little study of just 193 properties, we identified about $4.1 million in fines. That those statutory penalties could come into the city, the county, and help to fund some of the effort to really prevent wrongful foreclosure, which is, of course, the leading cause of displacement of families and ultimately many of whom unfortunately become homeless.
Yes, and yesterday on the radio, you joined me and some others on the radio yesterday at 1590 Eyes on Washington. We discussed the fact that there are 3,000 homeless school children walking around right now in Seattle at a minimum.
Yes.
And that's been one of the only media sources to really jump forward on this. We want to congratulate them and encourage. And Susan Harmon, you were on a View with Susan Harmon's show as well.
Yes.
And we were there with the call letters on that again, Susan.
11:50 a.m. KKNW Alternative Talk.
That's right. Those two stations have come forward to step with us, and we encourage major media to get involved. I'd like to see them come forward. As I once worked for major media, we've been encouraging them to come out, but to this date, no response.
That just isn't right. So, however, the important thing is about this research and the report that I wrote is this. It's a tool that you can all use. City government, prosecuting attorneys, at the municipal, county, and even state level to really understand these issues. What mortgage electronic registration systems is doing.
That your documents should be considered a learned treatise, given that Harvard Law School, many of the law schools have joined in supporting your position. I believe we need to move forward and get that certified as a learned treatise in the coming year, and then move forward from there. And I thank you for your time.
I'd like to say just one more thing, if I could.
Yes.
So last month, I flew down to Houston, Texas, where I testified as an expert on behalf of homeowners who sued Wells Fargo Bank as trustee of a particular securitized trust, who claimed to own their mortgage. One of the key issues in that case was whether or not a transfer of lien, which would be equivalent to your assignment of deed of trust, that had been recorded in the Harris County land records, was valid or not, because the foreclosure was being brought based upon the validity of that document. The transfer of lien, that is the assignment, was not only fraudulent, but it was void. They also found that Wells Fargo was not the proper party. They did not own the loan, and therefore they had no authority to bring that foreclosure action. At the end of the day, the jury verdict came in and awarded the homeowners, that is David and Mary Ellen Wolf, $5.38 million to basically send a message to the banks and to the mortgage servicing company who had brought this action unlawfully, that was just simply not tolerable in a civilized society. Now, the very issue that we won that trial on there is explained in my City of Seattle review of mortgage documents.
Right, so I would think that they would welcome you with a red carpet as opposed to getting what many of us perceive to be the cold shoulder.
Yes.
This video is brought to you by KingCast Mortgage Movies. To my knowledge, I'm the only media outlet in the entire country that consistently runs courtroom and other video pertaining to the mortgage industry. As a former assistant state attorney, I watch government closely, and I'm usually supported when I make political assertions, such as a drafted free speech lawsuit in New Hampshire that was supported by the city attorney, such as New York Senator Dean Skelos being dirty, he's convicted, such as U.S. Senator Menendez being dirty, he's indicted, and such as U.S. Senator Kelly Ayotte wanting to gut the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau when in point of fact, New Hampshire now has the highest per capita mortgage CFPB complaint ratio. Now, I knew this about Kelly because someone forged my name to mortgage when I was an escrow attorney there. I complained to her, and nothing was done. Now, I had contemplated filing a taxpayer consumer derivative lawsuit in this matter to compel the county recorder of deeds to do the right thing, but I don't think it's going to be necessary because I think cooler minds and more progressive minds at City Hall are going to prevail, and they will take action, and the right thing will happen. Well, if it doesn't, then we know what's going to happen. Now, eternal vigilance is the cost of freedom. And further, there is nothing free about these videos. So if you value what I do, hit the PayPal and have a great day.